Welcome back to the Empire of Kindness. I'm Matthew McInnes. This is episode 50. I started this podcast because I kept seeing the same thing everywhere I looked. People helping each other. Quietly, without fanfare, without asking for credit. A 9-year-old mowing lawns in brutal heat because his grandmother is old and people like her need help. 2 men running into a burning trailer because someone was still inside. 4 women starting a Facebook group in March of 2020 because their neighbors needed groceries and couldn't leave the house. 3,500 volunteers in Texas building wheelchair ramps on Saturday mornings so people can leave their homes. A guy in a grocery store transferring an elderly man's groceries to a working cart because the battery died and no one else was going to do it. These stories are everywhere, and I think we need them. Not because they make us feel good, though they do, and not because they shame us into being better, though sometimes they do challenge us. We need them because they show us what's possible. That's what the first 49 episodes have been about. Showing what's possible when someone decides that another person's struggle is worth their time. When someone notices a problem and doesn't wait for someone else to fix it. When someone sees a gap and just fills it. I've told you about big things, the Texas Ramp Project building over 30,000 ramps since 1985, Dolly Parton's Imagination Library mailing millions of books to kids every month, the Newton Neighbors Mutual Aid Network that started with 4 people and now supports thousands. And I've told you about small things, a husband helping a stranger in a grocery store, a meal delivery driver bringing books along with lunch, a neighbor noticing smoke and running toward it instead of away. The big things and the small things, they're connected. Because every large-scale program started with someone noticing a need and doing something about it. And every small act of kindness proves that the impulse to help is still there, still alive, still worth acting on. Over these 50 episodes, a few patterns have emerged. First, kindness doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't wait for funding or infrastructure or official approval. It just starts. Tracy Smith didn't wait for a grant to start KCS Angels. She heard her brother-in-law say, "I want to have fun," and she made it happen. The 4 women who started Newton Neighbors didn't wait for the city to organize relief efforts. They saw people in crisis and started a Facebook group. John Lane didn't wait for someone else to expand the Dallas Ramp Project statewide. He just did it. They all started small, and then they kept going. Second, systems matter, but they're not enough. We talked about this in the school lunch debt episode. Communities are raising thousands of dollars to pay off debt that shouldn't exist in the first place. It's beautiful that they're stepping up, but it's also a sign that the system isn't working. Same with the Texas Ramp Project. They've built 30,000 ramps. That's incredible. But they're also only able to build about 1/3 of the ramps people need because there aren't enough volunteers and resources. Medicare covers the wheelchair, but not the way out the door. That gap shouldn't exist. So we celebrate the kindness. We honor the people who are filling the gaps. And we also ask, how do we make this sustainable? How do we turn these acts of generosity into infrastructure so that help isn't dependent on luck or location? Third, noticing matters as much as doing. Brittany's husband noticed an elderly man whose cart had died. The Texas Ramp Project volunteers noticed that people were trapped in their homes. The LA Public Library noticed that homebound seniors had no access to books. They didn't just see the problem, they saw it as their problem to solve. And that's the shift, isn't it? Most of us see problems all the time. We walk past them, we assume someone else will handle it. We tell ourselves it's not our responsibility. But the people in these stories didn't do that. They noticed, and then they acted. Sometimes in big ways, sometimes in ways that took 5 minutes. Both are important. I started this podcast because I believe the world needs more kindness. not as a platitude, not as a bumper sticker sentiment, but as a real, tangible daily practice. And I think the way we get there is by showing each other what it looks like. Not to guilt anyone, not to make people feel bad for not doing enough, but to remind us all, myself included, that helping is possible, that it doesn't take superhuman strength or endless resources, that sometimes it just takes noticing and deciding that someone else's struggle is worth your attention. These 50 episodes have shown me something I didn't expect. These stories aren't rare. They're everywhere. A grandmother writing an $11.89 check because it's all she has, but she wants to help kids eat lunch. A fifth grader in Missouri running a fundraiser to pay off school lunch debt. A combat veterans motorcycle club building a ramp for a fellow veteran. A librarian partnering with a meal delivery service so homebound seniors can get books. A woman who saw her brother-in-law cry and said, "I want to help you have fun," and built an entire organization around that promise. These aren't anomalies. They're patterns. They're proof that the impulse to care for each other is still strong, still present, and still waiting for us to act on it. So here's where we go next. I'm calling the next 50 episodes Season 2, and I want your help building it. If you know a story about kindness, big or small, send it to me. If you've seen someone doing something remarkable in your community, tell me about it. If there's an organization or a person or a moment that deserves to be highlighted, let me know. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for truth. Real people doing real things to help other real people. Send me your ideas, send me your examples. And if you want to highlight something you know about, send me the details. The world needs you. Not because you're obligated to save everyone, but because your attention matters, your effort matters. The fact that you noticed something and decided to care, that matters. You can reach me at matthew@theempireofkindness.com. Tell me what's happening in your corner of the world. Tell me who's making a difference. Tell me what kindness looks like where you are. Because here's what I've learned over these 50 episodes. Kindness isn't one big thing. It's a million small things happening all the time, everywhere, carried out by ordinary people who decided that someone else's need was worth their time. And the more we see it, the more we recognize it. The more we recognize it, the more we're going to do it ourselves. That's the empire I'm trying to build. Not one where kindness is rare and remarkable, but one where it's so common, so expected, so woven into the fabric of daily life that we can't imagine it any other way. We're not there yet, but we're getting closer. Episode by episode, story by story, act by act. Thank you for being part of this, for listening, for caring, for whatever small thing you've done this week that made someone else's day a little bit easier. It counts. All of it counts. Tell your family and friends about our movement. Ask them to listen to the podcast and share their ideas. The only way we change the world is one small bit at a time. Never let them tell you a small group of motivated people can't change the world. It's the only thing that ever has. I'm Matthew McGinnis. This is the Empire of Kindness. Remember, kindness first. Kindness always. Let's build an empire of kindness.